Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar of May month. Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. Topic of today is conference basics, application, and Shure solution. Let me introduce the team. I'm Ritain Podar, part of systems application team in Shure MEA. Anish Samuel is joining me in this webinar, who is also the part of systems application team in Shure MEA. So we are the point of contact if you have any technical or design queries related to Shure Systems product. Couple of housekeeping and ground rules. Webinar, as you know, webinar is on BlueJeans platform. So participant video and microphone are muted. So it's one way. Please type your questions in chat box or Q&A box, and we will answer at the end of the session. Thank you. As we always start with explaining the webinar setup, we are mostly working from home, so we are having our home office setup. So we have done the setup something like this. We are using Shure MV5, especially me. I'm using Shure MV5 digital condenser microphone. It's connected with USB. Just plug and play. And I'm using Shure SRH 145 headphone, which is connected with 3.5mm jack. I'm having my webcam connected via USB. It is very important to have the clear communication, so microphone plays very important role. So having MV5 makes more sense because the audio is much clearer compared to what you can have with your laptop microphone and any other type of the microphone. My colleague, also, I'm having a couple of more options of the microphone in my home office. I'm also having Shure MXC 310, MXC 910 ceiling array microphone connected with P300. It's sitting in my room. I'm having the setup like this. So those who had attended the webinar last week, they have already an experience of these different microphones. We did the audio demo. If you're interested to have the audio demo, we're going to schedule a next session next week, which is mostly focused on our networking products. So we are going to talk about the products, explain the configuration. So that will help you to understand the audio quality. So stay tuned for the next webinar as well, where we are going to demonstrate the audio. My colleague is using Shure MV51 digital large diaphragm condenser microphone. He's having headphone to listen the webinar, of course, with the webcam. Right? So a couple of features, description of Motive. Motive is very straightforward solution to have it to connect with your laptop. It offers plug and play, quick setup. There is no driver required. You can just straight away connect and it just show in your microphone options. It is having built-in 3.5mm headphone output, so you can connect the headphone directly from the microphone itself. It offers a smartphone, PC, Mac compatibility. It's having built-in DSP with limiter, compressor, and equalizer. MV5, the one what I am using, the upper one, is having 3 DSP preset modes: vocal, flat, instrument. Right now I'm speaking in vocal mode, hoping that my voice is intelligible and clear. My colleague Anish is having MV51, and that offers 5 DSP modes. And those are speech, singing, flat, acoustic instrument, loud. It offers seamless integration with AV application and soft codecs like Skype, BlueJeans, Teams, etc. When we talk about home office, it's also important to have the right installation. So the microphone like MV5 and MV51 is having standard threading, so you can install like it is showing in this slide. MV51 as well, and a couple of pictures which shows how exactly you can use. And it offers durable touch front panel to select the mode, to set the level, or to select the microphone and headphone. Right. So without further ado, let's talk about the course structure. What are we going to discuss this today? The topics are going to be conference terminology. So we are going to talk about our solution, but just before that, you need to know what all terminology we use for the conferencing system. We'll also look on the portfolio positioning. We will talk about hardware. We are having solution for conferencing system, MXC, MXCW, and then we are going to talk about scalability and flexibility for various environment and applications with examples. So that's going to be our the agenda of today in this webinar. So let's start. So let's start with the conferencing terminology. Yeah. So when we talk about sound system and you need the audio to be projected on the speaker, so at that point, the standard solution is sound reinforcement. You're going to have your microphone with basic mic control, like microphone comes with mute and mute option. Then the audio from microphone goes to mixer or processor if it is the room is having more than one microphone, then amplifier or distribution amplifier, then goes to the speaker. So this is the very basic sound reinforcement system. Now let's move to the next tier, discussion system. So it's next year, as said. So discussion system is going to offer you advanced mic control. We'll talk about advanced mic control in next slide. It offers seat assignment and interpretation at low level, like one channel of interpretation or two channel of interpretation. We'll talk about these topics in upcoming slide. And let's go to the highest level, the next tier, conferencing. When we talk about conferencing, of course, it is going to have the basic feature like advanced mic control, seat assignment, interpretation at higher level. In addition to that, you also get option of ID seating verification, roles privileges, agenda management, document management, voting, polling, and external display. So these all things basically combine in conferencing system, right? We're going to talk about this in detail, but it is not only about the audio to be projected on the speaker. It's all about the structured kind of meeting setup where everything is organized and you need to use the microphone solution, right? So talking about the standard sound reinforcement system, we can offer you our Microflex wireless system, Microflex system, wired one, and Centraverse, which is our entry-level wired microphone solution for installed business. When we talk about discussion system, in discussion, we can offer our DDS 5900 discussion system or MXC system as an entry level, right? But when we go to the conferencing solution, here we offer the MXC system plus the Software 6000. The Software 6000 is going to add additional feature what you need to have the structured meeting. And we will talk about Software 6000 later, right? So let's discuss each topics, what was said in the previous slide. We were going to talk about seat assignment, how exactly it works in conferencing system, roles privileges, advanced microphone control, ID seating verification, agenda management, document management, voting, polling, external display, and interpretation. Start with seat assignment. So we, in a conferencing system, specifically in our system, what we can offer is going to have the option to assign the seat number. So when you connect the conferencing system, everything is connected. So it depends on the unit registration in the central unit. The seat numbers automatically assigns, right? But once that is done, you can assign the seat number with the help of Web GUI, what we offer with our central unit, or through the Software 6000. Software 6000 is software which offers more functionality to our conferencing system like MXC, right? So suppose you are having your conference room connected, seats are assigned, but it is not in sequence. So with the help of the software, with the help of the Web GUI, you can assign the seat number in sequence. It helps a lot to do a camera tracking application, or you want to assign a specific seat for a specific participant, a specific delegate, that can also be defined. So you can define the participant name, you can define the role, Everything is possible in this kind of system, which you don't get specifically in the standard microphone solution. So that's the reason it calls as conferencing system. Okay, so not only that, you can also assign the seats with their name using the ID cards with NFC. So our system supports NFC. So your conference unit is going to have the option to accept the NFC card. The operator organizer will offer you an NFC card. You go into the room, you go in front of the conference unit, insert the card, and it authenticate you basically. And it will tell your name. And when you turn on the microphone, it is going to mention your name as well with the system. So those kind of features are possible in conferencing system. A couple of more examples in terms of seat assignment. Everything will be connected in chain, so you can set the seat numbers in the conference unit. And in a real world scenario, it is going to be like this, what you see here. So suppose you define the seat number 1, you can see the physical installation of the room, and based on that, you can select the unit and define the seat number. That helps to understand who is sitting where and what's his role and profile. Yeah, so that kind of feature is possible with conferencing system. If you use Software 6000, with the help of Software 6000, not only the name and the seat number is possible, you can also have the profile, you can also mention the background, you can also add the picture. So when the delegate is having that kind of setup and he goes to the conference unit and turn on the microphone, it shows the details like the picture and the profile. If somebody wants to check the background of that gentleman who is doing the conference, that can be checked, right? It shows like this in front of the user. So we are talking about two applications here, CAA and CUA. In Software 6000, we'll talk about this later, but CUA is basically the view what users get. Yeah. So here you can check the background, profile, pictures, and all. Now, the next terminology is roles and privileges. So you can define the role of the delegates here. So for example, as said, these kind of meetings are very structured. So you're going to have the chairman, you're going to have the delegate, you're going to have VIP, those who will attend this meeting for a specific topic. So at that point, here you can define the chairman, delegates, and other roles. Based on the roles, the flexibility of the system changes. For example, if the conference is having VIP gets more flexibility on the microphone control compared to delegates. And chairman, of course, is there to manage the whole conferencing, to see who is requesting to speak and to whom to give the access of the microphone. Now, talking about the speak modes. In conferencing system, basically, if you see, there are 4 different microphone modes, speak modes. One is auto, second manual, third is Vox, fourth is FIFO. We also have option with reply. So I'm going to talk about reply in my next slide. But what is auto, manual, Vox, and FIFO? Let's talk about this. So auto is like if delegate wants to speak, he turns on the microphone. He presses the button in the conference unit and microphone turns on. Yeah, and if he doesn't want to speak, he can press the button again and it turns off the microphone. So it's auto. Manual is like delegates want to speak, but he cannot turn on his microphone. He needs to request. So basically, when he presses the button in the conference unit, it gives the notification to the chairman saying, I want to speak. Can you turn on my microphone? And it all depends on the chairman if he wants to give the access of the microphone, so he can turn on the microphone. And if he sees like, okay, enough talking, now turn off the microphone, so chairman can turn off the microphone as well. Vox is voice activation, and FIFO is first in, first out. So the delegate can request to speak, and that's going to be in sequence. If first delegate get the access and he turns off the microphone, the second one gets the access automatically without any interruption or without any control by the chairman. So that's FIFO, first in, first out. Okay, so let's talk about terminology difference in the microphone speak mode. So I'm pretty much sure that everybody is using microphone in system integration business, and there is a standard terminology to use the microphone, right? And that is with the video conferencing system or maybe for the local reinforcement. So at that point, the control and the activity of microphone is different compared to the conferencing system. So as said, conferencing system is having 4 different modes: manual, automatic, FIFO, and Vox. But in a standard AV conferencing application like VC and all is having different way of working. So there is a difference. So we're going to talk about this. So in this slide, you see MXC MXCW terminology. That is basically the terminology what we use for conferencing world, and Shure terminology is basically the terminology what we use for AV conferencing, video conferencing kind of application. So when we talk about manual mode in conferencing terminology, it is like delegate request to speak and chairman gives the access, and if chairman doesn't want him to speak, he can turn off the microphone. In AV conferencing or Shure terminology, it's manual mode is like user press the button, microphone turns on, user press the button and the microphone turns off, right? In automatic mode of conferencing world, it is like you press the button and microphone turn on, and you unpress the button, microphone turns off. But in an AV conferencing, automatic mode is basically the voice activation. So you speak, microphone turns on, you don't speak, microphone turns off depending on the threshold level, right? There is no FIFO and Vox mode option as if you see in the conference AV conferencing terminology. There is a kind of match here. So manual mode of conferencing mode, basically the manual mode of AV conferencing is automatic mode of conferencing world. Yeah. So there is a difference what you need to understand. Also, when we are talking about AV conferencing application where you have the VC application and all, when microphone turns on, it shows green. And when microphone turns off, it shows red, right? This is how we understand. But in a conferencing world, chairman delegates kind of system, when microphone turns on, it shows in red. And when microphone turns off, no color, right? But when you request to speak in conferencing world, it shows green. So please don't be confused when you see that kind of color notification. It depends on the application what you use. So request is green, microphone turn on is red, and no color means microphone is off, right? Now, as mentioned before, there's 4 basic speak modes, and then 3 modes like auto, manual, and Vox are also with reply. So what is reply? So that's an additional feature what conferencing system can offer. Reply function basically enable brief comment or short questions to current speaker without affecting the queue list. So let me show you an example and I'll explain here. So in this slide, you see there are 2 speakers, delegate 1 and chairman are speaking, that shows in red, right? And delegate 2 and delegate 3 are in request list. So they are having their queue, they are requesting, chairman will decide who to speak, right? But what happened during the conference, delegate 1 was speaking and he said something which was not acceptable by delegate 2, right? And he wants to give a short comment. So at that point, delegate 2 can request for reply to give the short comment of what was said by delegate 1. Okay, so what is going to happen? Delegate chairman can see in different color that delegate 2 wants to reply on this particular topic said by delegate 1, right? So when chairman saw and he gave the access, here is the delegate 1, right? So he is speaking, delegate 2 is speaking now. But if you notice, delegate 2 is still in the request list. So what does it mean is when you reply, it doesn't mean you go away from the request list. So when chairman turns off the microphone after receiving the short comment by the delegate 2, it goes back to the list in the request list. So he is still going to have the access to speak when his chance comes. Yeah. So that is the difference between the request list and reply list. Reply list is for the short commit, which you can assign with the conferencing system. Yeah, and that is possible to have with the speak mode. Hope that clarifies. Now let's talk about the next topic, that is speak interrupt mode. So different delegates can have the different, what do you say, the priority. So for example, if one delegate is having priority number 1 and second delegate is having priority number 2, so of course the second guy, the delegate who is having priority number 2 is having higher priority than the priority 1. So delegate is always going to have the option to interrupt other delegates. So if the system is selected or not allowed, it means nobody can, not a single delegate can interrupt any other. But if you configure the system on lower mode, speak interrupt in lower mode, at that point, participant who is having lower priority can basically be interrupted by the higher priority one. So that is lower speak interrupt ability. And the third one is same or lower. What does it mean is, if consider there are 3 delegates, delegate 1, 2 are having the same priority, priority 1, and delegate 2, 3 is having priority number 2, which is higher. So same or lower is like delegate 1 can interrupt delegate 2, and delegate 2 can also interrupt delegate 3 can also interrupt delegate 1 and 2. So same or lower. So participant with higher or same priority can interrupt other. So this is how the microphone can be interrupted. If your conference need no interruption, it is better to keep on not allowed. Otherwise, if somebody is speaking and someone else presses the button, that can interrupt the delegate, which is not good if the meeting is not planned that way. Yeah, you can also have the speak button lock enabled. So I can give you a good example what happens. Consider there is a structured meeting and delegate is requested to speak by the chairman, and delegate was not listening. He was somehow not focused. So when chairman says, okay, now I'm going to give a floor to delegate number 1, right? And delegate was not listening. So what can happen? He is not going to turn on the microphone, but the operator can listen to the chairman because he is focused. He turn on the microphone, right? But at that point, delegate will somehow realize, oh, I was supposed to speak, and he pressed the button. So basically, when he was supposed to turn on the microphone, he turned off the microphone because the technician or the operator already turned on the microphone. To avoid these kind of confusion, you can have the option to, you can enable the option of a speak button lock. So if the operator turns on the microphone, the delegate will not get the option to turn on and off the microphone for certain time. What is showing here is lock override or lock duration, right? So it basically avoid those kind of situation where it can happen, right? Now, the next terminology is speak list setting. In a conference, basically, first of all, our system supports up to 8 open microphone, but in a conference, having 8 microphones open is not recommended, because if 8 guys are speaking all together, it is not a voice, it's just the noise, right? So you can set number of open channels. So you can set how many delegates can speak all together and how many open microphones are possible. So here in this slide, it shows delegates 2, so only 2 delegates can speak, and total 3, which means chairman can also participate. And you can also limit the maximum request like 250, maximum reply by 250. And all that's manageable. You can select how many requests and replies you need. Now, advanced microphone control is also going to offer a speech time. So it means that you can set the timer. When we talk about a structured meeting, it is very important to understand that if somebody is talking, it is not fair to turn off the microphone immediately. Of course, you're going to have the certain timing. If somebody is not respecting that, and chairman is going to say, now your time is over, we will turn off the microphone. And if he turns off the microphone, few people are sensitive, right? So that is not fair or recommended to do that way. So the technology can help here. So the system, like conferencing system, can offer you speech time. So where you can, when the delegate turns on the microphone, it can show like what is the time limitation to speak, right? And if that exceed, then you have two options. Either you give the warning, like your time is over, microphone is going to be turned off, or you can straight away turn off the microphone. At that point, delegate is not going to complain because the technology is taking care of it. Nobody is purposely doing it. So speech time is possible with the conferencing system, and that is possible with our software 6000. So these kind of advanced features are possible, right? ID and seating verification. So ID and seating verification is like our system supports NFC card. You can insert, it will authenticate the conference unit, and you can continue your meeting. Agenda management. As said, these meetings are very structured. Each individual topics are basically planned. So you can show the agenda, delegates can see the agenda and all. You can have the meeting report. So meeting reports can show each individual activity of the conference system. As you can see here, you can have the report like meeting log report with individual votes, meeting log reports and all. You can also do the paperless meeting. The software can offer you the paperless meeting options. So if the meeting is having a specific topic, people can go to the internet with the software itself. They can see, they can find the knowledge information. They can open the PDF file to look on the agenda and all, right? You can do voting, polling. So you can configure your voting the way you want to do in a conference. So this is how the access is going to have with the user. You can select what kind of voting you want to have, 3-button secret, 5-button, right? And you can also do the voting through the software with the help of PC if the conference unit is not having voting button. You can show the meeting information on large display. Consider a meeting is for 100 participants. So who is speaking from what corner? It is going to be complicated. So with the help of the software, which can offer external display, you can show the room mimic, you can show the agenda, you can show the voting, you can show the voting result. So those things basically help to have the effective meeting in this kind of environment. Yeah, so having external display to show this will make more sense. Now the last thing is the interpretation to discuss. What is interpretation, first of all? So in a conference, if the delegates are joining from all across the world, so definitely not everybody will know one language. So with the help of interpretation, you offers the collaborative conferencing. So if suppose few delegates are not able to understand specific language, so at that point, the conference units, the interpreter sets are going to offer you the option to listen what is happening in the room. So whatever is the language of the room is basically called as floor language, right? So interpreter will listen the floor through the headphone sitting in the booth, and then they can interpret in different language. And here the delegates can connect the headphone, select the channel, what exactly they want to listen, right? And they can continue the meeting in different languages as well. Yeah, so floor language is basically whatever is getting said or whatever language is in the room, and interpreted channels are those which you can hear through the technology, right? Now let's talk about booth and desk. Here, booth is basically the language, what is defined for that room. So there will be a room where interpreters are going to sit, and you can configure the interpreter set for different languages, and it works for means in one booth you can have multiple desks. So standard conferencing world and the standard says that at least 2 interpreters should have in one booth. Reason, these kind of job is very tiring. You need to listen the room and then understand and interpret in different languages. Having one guy sitting whole day for one room for the interpretation is very tiring. So it is always recommended to have 2 desks. So if one interpreter is tired, then second one can take over, something like that. So here the example is showing with 3 booths, booth 1, booth 2, booth 3. Yeah, so one booth can have multiple desks and you can configure. Now let's talk about how to configure the interpretation. So here you have language setup. You can set what language you want to have with different booths. You can define the booths as well in the system. So suppose you want to have booth 1 for Africans, 2 for Albanian, 3 for Arabic and Armenian, you can select and configure. Yeah. Now let's talk about the next topic, that is outgoing language. So by default, standard, our MXC IC interpreter console offer 3 outgoing languages. So I'm going to explain what is that. So consider a scenario where the floor is English, right? And booth 1 is Arabic, booth 2 is French, booth 3 is German. Yeah. So A is always the primary language. And in that case, booth 1 primary language is Arabic, booth 2 is having primary language French, and booth 3 is having primary language German, right? Now, consider a scenario where the floor changed to Arabic. Everybody started speaking in Arabic. And for some reason, French guy, the interpreter who is managing French language is not there, right? And somebody in the room is willing to listen to French interpretation. How is this going to work, right? So basically, if you consider this scenario, booth 1 is Arabic and the floor is Arabic. Everybody is talking in Arabic. So booth 1 is free. An Arabic guy who is sitting in this booth knows French. Yeah. So in that case, what he can do, you can configure the B and C language of interpreter console, which is selectable or pre-configured. So you can configure it in French or German. So if you select French, so basically the guy who is sitting in booth 1 is defined for Arabic, but he can speak in French by selecting outgoing language B, right, from the booth 1. But the delegates who are sitting in the room will select channel number 2, which is from the booth number 2, and they can listen French. So the person is sitting in booth 1, but the outgoing language is B, which is getting projected on channel number 2 if the language is selected French, right? So that's how you can use the same conference unit, interpreter unit, to have different languages from the same booth. So this is how outgoing language help. Yeah, sitting in the same room can have the different languages by selecting the outgoing language B and C. So we offer 3 outgoing languages. Now in outgoing language, there is a term called interpretation lock. So there are multiple options: no lock, interpretation lock, where A interrupt A interrupt B plus C, A interrupt A plus B plus C, or complete lock. So let's go to the same scenario over here. And over here, consider you have a booth like this. And if booth number 1, desk 1 is speaking and desk 2 is just sitting, and desk 1 said, "Oh, I got tired, I cannot speak, can you take over?" So for both the desk, A language is Arabic. So this interpreter can interrupt to this one. So basically he will take over without turning on the microphone. So that's called A interrupt A. Now, when I was giving the example where French guy is not there and booth 1 is using French language, so B language is French, right, for booth 1. So now French guy came back, and if he saw that, oh, the French language is required, I'm going to speak now. So when he turns on his microphone, it will turn off to booth number 1 microphone. So basically A language of French is interrupting B language of Arabic. So A is interrupting B, right? So that's A interrupt B or C, or A interrupt A plus B plus C all together, right? Now let's move to the next terminology, that's relay language in interpretation. Let me explain this. Consider a scenario, floor is English. So everybody is speaking in English. And there are 3 languages: Arabic, French, and German, right? So Arabic is, of course, everything is okay. But now consider a scenario, what happened is the floor is Spanish now. Everybody started speaking in Spanish, right? And for some reason, booth 1, the guy who is sitting in booth 1, Arabic interpreter, doesn't understand Spanish, yeah, but understand French. And in booth 2 guy understands Spanish. So what he can do, he can basically, the booth 1 guy will not listen to the floor in the conference unit. He will start listening to French, right? So he understands Spanish, booth 2 understands Spanish. So he will listen to Spanish and speak in French. And booth 1, instead of listening in Spanish, he can use the relay language option where he will listen to French and speak in Arabic. right? And now this is how it is going to work. So he's not listening to the floor. Now consider a scenario where both two also don't understand Spanish, but understand German. And the German guy understands Spanish. So what's going to happen? German booth will listen Spanish, right? And he will speak in German. And then the French interpreter will listen to German and speak in French. And then as booth one doesn't understand Spanish and German, so he can only understand French. So he will listen to French and speak in Arabic. So basically, depends on the interpreter. Each language interpretation requires 6 seconds of latency. So basically, 3 to 6 seconds for first interpretation, then 6 to 9 seconds for the second level of interpretation, because he needs to listen to German, so he needs to wait what was said. And the third interpreter will listen and interpret in 9 to 12 seconds of latency, which is not good, right? So if consider a scenario where some chairman cracked the joke. So the guy who can understand on the floor Spanish, he can immediately laugh. But the guy who can understand German only, he needs to wait for that joke for 3 to 6 seconds. And consider what's going to happen for Arabic people, 9 to 12 seconds. So the room is going to have the slots of laughing, right? Because the joke will be understood in different time manner, right? So we don't recommend to have more than 2 layers of relay interpretation, but that's also to understand what is the relay language or what can happen, right? So interpretation is relay language is having different sign languages, which you can see in the interpreter set. So here you see plus, minus, minus. So these buttons are relay buttons, and this is the floor. If the interpreter needs to listen to the floor, he press the button and listen to the floor. But if he doesn't understand the floor, he press this button and listen to this. Now, as said, it is having the sign plus, plus, double minus, plus, minus, 0. So these are having some understanding. 0, O is basically no interpretation on the channel. Nothing is happening. When you're having plus, it means interpretation on the channel. So if suppose French guy is interpreting, other interpreter can see plus and understand, okay, the interpretation is happening in French. Minus means one relay interpretation. So if you see minus here, which is showing on Russian, it means the interpreter who is interpreting in Russian is not listening to the floor. He is having first relay, right? So of course that's going to have some latency. So other interpreter who is willing to listen Russian and speak, he can clearly notify that, okay, that's going to have some latency. And double minus is double relay interpretation. So definitely we don't recommend any interpreter to listen this language, because that's going to have huge latency. Hope relay language clarifies everything. Yeah, but that's the system capability. Now, autofloor is the feature what is basically for the participant in the conference room. What happens if everybody is listening to the interpretation and for some reason floor became the same language what is happening in the interpretation in the room. So if suppose somebody is listening Arabic on channel number 1 and the floor became Arabic, so autofloor helps to have the floor language on the interpreted channel, because at that point the interpreter who is interpreting on channel number 1 will not speak, because that's the actual floor number. So we are transmitting the floor language to the autofloor in same channel. Now the next one is ambient microphone. Ambient microphone is important for the interpreter. Say if the meeting is going on and nobody is speaking in the room, and interpreters are mostly sitting outside or maybe in an interpreter booth where they cannot see what's happening in the room. So at that point, if no signal is going to the room, can basically confuse the interpreter. So with the help of ambient microphone, you can assign one microphone as ambient microphone in the room, so interpreter at least can listen the ambience of the room, and that can help to understand whether the session is going on or no. So this is the complete scenario, a setup for the interpretation in the conferencing system. Central unit connected with the conference unit and a headphone to listen the interpretation. If the room is having listeners only and they don't need to participate in the conference, they don't need to speak, You can offer the wired channel selector that is only having the channel selector and they can listen through the headphone. And if there is no option of cabling, you can offer IR interpretation solution, what we can offer. So here the signal from the central unit, audio signal will come to the transmitter, it project through the radiator, IR radiator, and participant listeners can have the wireless IR receiver and they can select the channel and listen through that. Yeah, so that's all about the terminology what we cover in this. Now let's talk about the portfolio positioning. Next topic. So there are different meeting formats. One is presentation one to many, then discussion many to many, conference many to many with a lot of features like agenda and all, and AV conferencing for the conferencing application. Today, our focus is on this discussion and conference system. So I'm going to give you an example of the room. Consider you're having a room like this. It looks like a council, city council. So the functional requirement is you have to have open discussion with decentralized mix minus sound reinforcement, additional row for the audience. There are audience who are sitting, right? Podium with VIPs and presenter lectern, chairperson with mute all button. So these are the chairperson with mute all button. So in this kind of scenario, you can offer our standard point-to-point microphone solution, which is like a standard our desktop-based microphone, which will be connected straight to the mixer, and you can use the control system to control the microphone. So it is very straightforward, but you can also do this with our conferencing solution, DDS 5900, where the benefit of this system is daisy chain. So you're not running individual cables. It is going to have loop in, loop out till the number of conference unit, and the central unit is going to manage everything. It's standard Cat5e shielded cable, which will be connected. And then you take the audio from the central unit, connect with the processor and amplifier. But if in case you're having the added requirement like a speech assignment, request to speak, listen via individual headphone, so these system can fail. That point, you need to look on the conferencing solution like DDS 5900 and MXC. But if you need even more requirement, have more requirement like delegate registration, attendance verification, electronic voting, electronic documentation. So at that point, this system will not work because this is the basic system. The solution is MXC, and MXC offers all these features like delegate registration, attendance verification, electronic voting, and electronic documentation. Yeah, so these all are the software which can be incorporated together to work with the system. Yeah, so this is a complete portfolio of what you can think of having with the conferencing solution. So let me summarize. Discussion system, you can have the basic discussion with central sound reinforcement. You can use MX P300 or SCM820. Advanced discussion with decentral sound reinforcement, daisy chain cabling, you can use DDS 5900. And even conference system where small to large structured meeting with permanent and non-permanent setup, more participant role, and PC-based user interface require multi-language support and electronic voting. At that point, you need to look on Shure MXC solution. Yeah, and of course, with the help of Software 6000, you enhance more features. So let me just explain the product portfolio over here. So we have MXC system. So MXC 615, this is the portable unit with basic options, flush mount, and if you need voting and touch screens, so here we have option MXC 630, flush mount, and then if you need touch screen display, we have other conference unit, which is here, right? So for such kind of system, you can easily control, configure, monitor via component GUI. For these system, when you have more features, you need Software 6000 to accommodate more features, but it is not recommended mandatory to have Software 6000 for all the installation, but it can add more features. We'll talk about this. Now talking about hardware, let's talk about Microflex complete system. So I'm gonna just give you the full product portfolio. In Microflex complete, you're gonna have central unit, conference unit, right? Then you're gonna have with voting, portable and flush mount with touch screen. This is interpreter set, this is name sign, and these are the gooseneck microphone. Yeah, so now let's talk about the overall concept and system operation. It offers superior sound quality, versatile from fixed installation to rental event, and is scalable up to 3,800 participant. Comprehensive Software 6000 is optional and upgradable through firmware or Software 6000 updates. 4 ways of operation, as said, standalone. You can use standalone with browser-based setup and control menu. You can control the system with Software 6000 and third-party control system. And there are 4 ways to operate the microphone: manual, automatic, FIFO, and Vox. This is our entry-level conference unit, MXC 615 and 620. Difference is MXC 650 is not having the NFC card, and this guy is having NFC card. Dual channel selector, language listening, you can configure like chairman, delegate, and dual delegates. So 2 delegates can share same microphone. This is 630 with voting, speaker built-in, NFC card, braille here, and you can configure like chairman and delegate. And 640, you can configure like chairman, delegate, and dual delegate. The screen can be used for doing the voting, to see the agenda, to look on the request list, and NFC card and all. So this is MXC 640. And in flush mount, we have 2 options, MXC 620F and 630F. The difference is one is not having voting. 620F is not having voting option. Yeah. And if you just want to have the speak and request or basic discussion system without voting a channel selector, we have option MXC, MIU, FS, and FL. We can also do customization like this. If your project requires any specific color and you want to customize the conference unit, you can request us and we can offer the customized solution. The only difference is the time to develop these products will be higher than the standard product. This is our interpretation unit. Interpretation unit is ISO compliance. It offers 8 relay buttons, 3 outgoing channels, 2 port for headphone, headset, 1 port for headphone only. It offers audible cue for visually impaired people, built-in speaker to listen the floor if interpreter is not speaking, and it's also having NFC card and USB port for personalized setting. Yeah, so if interpreter needs to move to another booth some another day, he can keep his personalized setting, go there, insert the NFC or USB card, and retrieve all the personalized setting. We have 4 different types of gooseneck to connect with this. This is not the XLR, standard XLR gooseneck. It's 10 pin with XLR housing connector for use with new Microflex. We're having 16-inch, 20-inch, and 25-inch. Single flex and dual flex means the flex is also going to be on top if you go for dual flex. We also have shotgun gooseneck microphone with 15 centimeter length of a stem. The shotgun is going to offer you longer range of pickup because the capsule is bigger than the standard gooseneck microphone. We have the name sign. You can pair the name sign with the conference unit, which can show the profile and the name of the delegates. The delegates will be assigned with an NFC card, or maybe the meeting is configured in a way that they know where to go and sit. Delegate will go there, insert the card. The unit will be paired with the name sign, and it will show the information. So tomorrow somebody else goes there and sit. If that's having the NFC card option, insert, that will show the information. Right? It works on e-ink technology. You can integrate with Software 6000, and it is dual delegate capable. So on the left side, it can show one delegate. On the right side, it can show another delegate. Yeah. Talking about central unit, it's 1 rack unit. It is having external power supply. Built-in basic system setup offers the web GUI control, and you can control via third-party command string. It is having 4 DC's LAN to connect with the conference unit. It's having 8 analog output you can configure for floor, group, and interpreters. It is having line in 2 input to connect external microphone. It also offers you emergency evacuation message on contact closer, so you can integrate with fire alarm and all other systems. Basic system can offer up to 250 conference units to connect, but with the help of license, you can go up to 3,800 conference unit. So it can offer the large installation. By default, it offers 4 channels of interpretation, but we have licenses to accommodate 8, 16, and 31 channels as well. Right? There are 2 types of license with conferencing system from us. First is the feature license, which goes in the central unit. It's serial based. It's linked with the serial number of the central unit. So it's perpetual, one-time upload, and it is going to be there forever unless until you overwrite it. And the software 6000 is also having license. It is temporary and perpetual. Temporary, if you want to give the demo to your customer, you can use this license. Now, talking about cable topology a little, if you guys are aware about our old system, which was DCS 6000, that was also having the DCS LAN topology. So you connect this way and loop in, loop out, and you connect to the last unit, and it works, right? The problem is if any cable fails or any loose connection happened, it can damage other two not damage, it can just turn off other conference units. So your chain is affected. Now, with the new MXC system, we are offering the loop, simple loop options. So basically, the conference unit will be connected in daisy chain, and the last unit of the conference unit can go back to the central unit with the help of MXC ACC RIP, right? This MXC ACC RIP offers the loop redundancy. Yeah, so MXC system offers the loop redundancy. If any failure happened, the loop switch on other direction and still keep the conference unit powered on. Yeah, so it is not going to affect the system. So this was the request from many customers. So we did that with MXC system. Now, the next topic is about the software 6000. I was talking about software 6000 a lot. So let me explain what exactly you can do with software 6000. So software 6000 is basically the conference management software suite. It unlocks full power of MXC Microflex complete conference system. It allows large meeting with hundreds of participants to be as effortless and efficient as a small gathering. Yeah, it offers functionality to recognize unique role and attributes of different participants. You can create an agenda, you can give votes electronically, and you can also document the result, right? And target user for this kind of software is basically Parliament, local, regional, national, and international organization and conference facilities. What exactly you can get with Software 6000? You can do the meeting management, you can do agenda management, you can have advanced microphone control with speech time, which I explained in the time when I started this. You can have the reporting and retention of voting result. You can have the content design for external display for audience information. You can have the mimic control, visual seating layout. You can access the conference unit by code and card. You can also do the pre-configured messaging between 640, MXC 640 and the CUA application. I will explain the CUA later. And you can also do the interfacing for streaming. Yeah. So there are three important modules of Software 6000. The first one is CAA, Conference Administrator Application. Conference Administrator Application is to configure the meeting. Yeah, so basically organizer will give the details of the delegates, room layout and all, and technician or the administrator will basically configure everything with this software module. That's called CAA. CUA is Conference User Application. It's basically used by the participant, delegate, chairperson, operation technician, or head interpreter, where this is the result of CAA basically. Whatever you configure in CAA, Administrator Application, you see here. So this is how you're going to have, and you can control the whole system with the software itself. So you can turn on and off the microphone from here. You can see the agenda. You can see the mimic. You can see the voting result. You can start the meeting. You can stop the meeting. You can see the delegate details. A lot of things are possible with CUA. Basically, it's the product of CAA. And CDA, as I explained, it's a large display to show the meeting information on a bigger display. Yeah, so maximum 16 CDA is possible with Software 6000 in one system, right? Now, I will quickly explain the system architecture. How does it work? So you're going to have, for running the Software 6000, you need the database engine. And we use MS SQL Express. CUI is the application which provides the interconnectivity between the central unit and the software. It runs at the background, right? And CA is the administrator application. CUA is the user application to give the access of the system via the PC. And CDA is the display application. You can have multiple CUA. You can have more than one CA to have multiple area for configuration. You can have multiple CDA with different informations. Yeah. So That's all about it in terms of the wired conferencing and conferencing terminology. Hope that clarifies. So I'm going to hand over the floor to Anish. He's going to take over and continue with MXCW system and other topics. Once done, I'll be back and we'll be having a couple of Q&A session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ritin. Hi, everyone. Good day to you all. Let's discuss about the MXCW system, which is actually a quick, reliable, secure, and scalable wireless solution to your conferencing needs. So we'll start with a small video just to get you oriented. Coming back to the presentation, I hope the video was very informative. So the Microflex Complete Wireless is an integrated system, so which is basically used in discussion and conferencing and meeting applications. So it can be used in a variety of other meetings because it has many capabilities. We'll discuss about that shortly. The couple of slides that are going to come will discuss the top 3 applications where we can use the MXCW system. So basically in discussion and conference environments, where in discussion there would be a less structure, and in conference environments there would be more structure to the meetings. So the first application we are going to discuss is structured meetings, typically conducted by government institutions and large international organizations. So these are actually large formal meetings that require each person to have separate speaking and listening abilities, and formality and order should be there, and it is very critical to get through a set agenda and allow enough time for everybody that needs to speak. So MXCW is actually meeting these criteria by allowing up to 125 conference units per access point. So it's a totally wireless solution, and each conference unit is actually equipped with a microphone, for talking, and you can have headphones and loudspeaker monitoring options as well. So the MXCW has different meeting modes, and speaking limits can be adjusted, and you can add seat names, roles, permissions to each of the participants, and it is very useful when you are running extra large meetings. So moving on to the second application, you can use this solution with a rental and temporary event spaces. So as you may know that these meetings will have some inherent challenges and requirements, where setup time is typically limited because the space is actually rented out, and you'll have a very short period of time. So often, in such deployment, there will be existing systems in the building that needs to be considered. And also, the temporary event staff will also be considered as a guest in the building. So it has to be a very straightforward and easy kind of a setup. So, the MXCW is an ideal fit for this particular application because, again, it offers configurable participant roles. So it can limit inventory concerns. And it also offers automatic frequency coordination, that will help you select the best channel in your area. It also affects, gives you the a simple setup and configuration mode. And also expansion is possible if like you need to add a new seat or personnel at the last moment. And also it offers easier integration with NFC cards. The NFC card can map a username and role to a particular unit, on the fly. So MXCW is actually compatible with different existing systems, like over Dante and analog. So the interfacing is pretty easy and straightforward. And you can also have RF channel coordination. If you want to select this particular channel or deselect a particular channel in case of a coordination, that you have to do with the building, you can do that very easily with this. So moving on, the last application we would like to discuss is like a hybrid of the first two scenarios, which is like the structured meeting and the rental temporary events. So it is the terminology that we use here is the historic and multipurpose room. So in a historic and multipurpose room, there are like additional concerns. So there is very less ability or to make modifications to the space, and there are poor acoustics because the emphasis will be on visual aesthetics of the room, and the room will be like grandiose or filled with grandeur. Again, MXCW easily meets these needs because modification is not at all an issue because only a single Cat5e or a Cat6 cable is required for the whole system. So the transceiver unit just has one Cat6 cable, and the acoustics in these rooms are improved, by the personal monitoring options found on each unit, and automatic gain control on each audio signal is possible. So additionally, active speakers can be identified, visually around the room because the LED ring on the microphone, if a person is speaking, would be showing the indication that he is speaking. So we have a different colors of red and green that can give you that visual indication. And also the speaker list that displays the name and seat number of an active talker. So moving on, we are going to discuss about the Microflex wireless, transceiver and other components. So it is operating on a custom wireless protocol, which is in the 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. So this is totally different from what you see in conventional products, that operate on a similar range. It is not your typical, wireless device. So it has a customized, it's used the same platform, but it works only between our devices. And it offers 128-bit encrypted audio, video data, audio and data because, we need to have the top level security when an executive high-level team is having a sensitive discussion of information. RF scanning, channel masking, and frequency coordination, everything is possible. So the setup is similar to consumer Wi-Fi with optional security features and all. The system is similar to the MXC wired system with exception to few interpretation channels. And it is Dante enabled for the scaling of the system. And you can have a maximum of 125 units, 125 delegate units per Wi-Fi channel, and it operates license free. Moving on to the access point transceiver unit, it is PoE powered. You just need one cable. It offers like 150 feet of operating range. It can give you 10 Dante channels as input and output for further expandability. And analog XLR in and output connections are available. And 125 wireless delegate units can work with a single system. So you can see the XLR input and output and the reset button and the RJ45 jack here. So the reset button is basically to return the system to a default setting. So there are cable routing tracks on the back of the access point, so you can easily route the cable and connect it. There is a mounting bracket that will help you connect to the wall, or you can have it flush on a ceiling on a wall. So the bracket also helps you secure the unit via a Visa mount. And there is an optional, paintable cover, which is, you can have some kind of a branding or you can have it further blended with your surroundings. And the status LED light also, it is visible even when the cover is on. Okay, so the discussion system, the model number is called MXCW 640. It offers 6 operational participant mode. So you can use the same system in chairman mode, delegate mode, dual delegate, listener mode, ambient microphone operation, and remote caller modes. So that's very convenient in setting it on the fly. So it has 2 channel selectors and 2 headphone ports with encoder volume control, and NFC card reading is supported, so you can have the participant information on the NFC card, and then insert the card and authenticate a particular user to use a particular system. The voting capabilities are there, and it offers 10 hours of operation time. It is even when you fully burdened, when it is fully operational, it will give you 10 hours. And there is a mini USB port as a backup for external power or charging scenario. So it also has a TRRS connectivity or a 3.5 mm connection for external audio input and output. So unlike a traditional PA system, MXCW offers a sound reinforcement individually at each unit. So it improves the speech intelligibility and ease of setup. So the unit has an integrated loudspeaker, basically for the floor mix, and headphone jacks for language distribution for up to 8 channels of simultaneous interpretation. So the participant can actually select the desired language and can adjust the volume to their taste. For fast and secure sign-in, we can use the NFC card slot on the side of the device, and it can enable free seating layouts and seamless addition of new people to a meeting. So the MXCW 640 uses the Shure SB930 smart lithium-ion battery for power, and it offers a minimum of 11 hours runtime and onboard test meter for quick level checks. So you can see a level meter directly. And the battery can also be charged using a USB cable from a minimum 2 amp power supply. Moving on to the network charging station, it is fairly a simple unit and it doesn't have much controls or connectors. So on the back, you can find an IEC connector with an on-off switch for power. And fans are there to provide temperature control. And we need to make sure that it is not blocked, to ensure adequate airflow. And then there is an Ethernet connector for the, for it to connect to a network, in case of remote monitoring of charging batteries and all. And then there is a reset button to set it back to a factory default. And the battery, there is a battery storage mode button also available. Storage mode actually preserves the health of the battery when you are storing the system for a longer period of time. It will safely discharge and maintain the battery at, like 3.8 volts or something that is more effective for longer storing periods. So the system at a glance, you can see that the MXCW APT is the wireless transceiver unit, and you have the MXCW 640 for wireless conference units. There is a web application that is available, the APT, and you will be controlling the entire session on that. And then there's the charging station with the SB930 rechargeable battery. So we'll see a quick video on the setup and come back. So we have covered the basic components. Now we can discuss how we can connect them together to form an audio system. So the access point, acts as a central unit, and it provides several different audio connections. So the primary audio connection is actually the wireless network, or WLAN, and bidirectional audio channels between the conference unit and the access point is made possible. So you have 8 uplink and 9 downlink channels, and it also offers you network expansion over Dante by giving you 10 inputs and outputs over Dante. And it supports input and output connectivity, where you can have your wired microphones also connected. So it actually opens up a wide variety of Shure or third-party products to be connected to the system as well. Now, a quick discussion about the uplink and the downlink channels that we mentioned in the older slide. So what do we mean by uplink channels? So uplink channels, there is a total of 8 uplink channels, meaning that the number of active speakers can be 8 at a time. So as Ritin had mentioned earlier, when 8 people are talking at the same time, it's going to cause a lot of interference. So we can always reduce it to maybe 1, 2, or 3 channels. But what we mean by 8 uplink is that up to 8 microphones can be fully active at all times. So it will keep on sending these 8 uplink channels at all point of time, and the uplink channels can also be divided between the delegate and the chairman, so that the chairman can turn on the microphone at any time, regardless of the delegate total. So by default, any microphone that is active is actually routed to the floor mix, and the floor mix combines all active speakers, and it is routed to external sound sources. Like if you have a PA system or something like that, you can definitely route it to that, and to other participants for listening. So now we are going to talk about the downlink channels. So downlink channels, we are talking about 9 downlink channels. So the downlink channels actually work a little bit different than the uplink channels. The downlink channels are always routed to any conference unit at all point of time, and the user can actually select which channel he has to listen to, because it will be like the interpreted languages, or and the maximum on channel 0 you'll be having the floor mix, and the rest of the channels you can use for the various interpreted languages. So how can we connect an interpretation channel from a CCU, a wired system, to a wireless MXCW system? So it is being discussed in this slide. So basically, on your CCU, you can set multiple channels for languages, and since it has analog outputs, like 8 analog outputs. Say for example, you are connecting like 4 languages like Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese. You have to route it through the web browser of the DIS CCU to each of these outputs. And that particular output, you need to connect it with any 4 input device. So what it does is that it connects the output to the input of the NE4 device and then converts it to Dante. And using Dante controller, you can assign these converted Dante signals to connect to the MXW APT, and you can assign via the web browser each of these Dante channels to be part of an individual channel. So it's very straightforward. So you can have a maximum of 8 interpreted languages. But you need to use the NE4 device for converting the analog outputs of the CCU to a Dante signal. And you can assign the easier reference for these languages, like ENG for English and ESP for Spanish or something like that at your will. And the person can, once he connects the headphone to unit, the language button will appear on the screen, and he can choose from the available languages directly from the touchscreen. So simultaneous interpretation is actually set on the MXCW system. It will help participants to communicate more clearly across even language barriers. So a little bit about the web application. So let's walk through the MXW web application at a high level. So there are basically three app views. So one is the admin view for advanced settings, and the configuration options are available in that. So you can assign seat numbers, and you can find the roles. You can assign them, and you can have the information on the battery, RF strength, and the firmware information, and other functionality like identifying a unit, and you can renumber the unit and reset the seat names to name at your will. There's a chairman view for basically the meeting control. It is mostly for the live applications, and it gives you advanced functionality like all delegates off, all requests off. So basically, a chairman can have all the request the functionality to manage a meeting. So it even shows the active speakers and requests, and it can search through the participant list for granting permissions, etc. So next is the display view for the speak list priority and the active, showing the active speakers and requests. So once you are accessing the application, you'll have the three options to sign in, and if there is a password set for the view that you want to access, you have to enter it in this particular window. So the admin view will give you the full access to the application, and it will give you the complete control and advanced configuration. So in this meeting control tab, you'll have the basic and also the advanced subtabs. So the basic tabs you'll find like speak mode and the maximum number of active microphone settings. So this actually affects like how the microphones will behave or will be activated during a particular meeting. Now in the advanced tab, you have active speaker interruption mode and ambient microphone on off, NFC card on off, and microphone permissions. So what is active speaker interruption? So basically it gives you like three options for when a speaker list is full. Like when you have the maximum number of speakers is full and another participant tries to activate their microphone, what the system has to do. You can set that in active speaker interruption mode. So you can set it either to be not allowed or allow for equal or higher priority or a higher priority participant only. You can set all those modes here. And priority level, you can adjust between 1 to 5. So basically a manager has a higher priority and a team lead maybe has a lower priority than the manager, and an executive has the least of the priority when you're having a meeting. So the last tab, you can use it for setting up the interpretation channels and all, and you can adjust the way the channels appear on the conference unit. So you also have a wireless tab for RF coordination, and you can see the operation channel of the access points. You can see the continuous scanner information and the real-time status. You can also find the RF signal strength of each available channels. So please keep in mind that you can select or deselect channel to plan with the nearby operators that are operating in the same frequency band. And also, please bear in mind that we operate on the dynamic frequency selection band or DFS band. So it'll give you more capabilities of utilizing underserviced frequencies, and it is not a band where your traditional wireless devices operates on. So each view can be protected with a password, and you can set permissions to access with a password, and you can have the different modes of views. There is a web page for the charging device as well, so it'll give you a simple track of the status and the health of the charging batteries. So moving on to the last topic, the scaling up of the systems. So in this module, we'll show you application examples how an MXC system can, scale up to a size and functionality with or without the software 6000. So the topics that we are going to discuss are like the meeting rooms, boardrooms, international press conferences, scout rooms, small city councils, with and without electronic voting, and medium city councils, large city councils, the convention halls with IR distribution, and the convention halls with our name signs. So the first example is a medium-sized and a large-sized room. So these are typically used for open discussions where the size of the room is requiring a self-contained PA or a voice lift system. So that's where you use the discussion system because it has a speaker or and the microphone built in. So in case you need the AV conferencing to take place in this room, you can route the discussion system audio output to the AV conferencing or a video conferencing system, and you can send it also to the far end. And in reverse, if you want the far end audio to go inside the CCU, you can do that as well. So it'll be further explained, in this particular slide. So you can have the MXC 615, the basic conferencing unit with the speaker. The DIS CCU is connected with the MXC 615 units over a single chain. And you can have a laptop, controlling the web browser, and it will be having a very basic kind of, control. And the output of the CCU, you can connect it to a recording or a PA system or a video conferencing unit. So moving on to the next example, again, this is a very common example for a boardroom. A person will be either standing or sitting on the table, and the size of the room again demands a self-contained PA or a voice lift system. So it may require conference units with higher functionality like voting and other functionalities like agenda management also. So you can have the MXC 630 that was capable of giving you the voting controls, and it is again connected to the DIS CCU. And you can have the chairman. The chairman can have the control of whom to of the speaking list, and he can give the priority and turn a particular microphone on and off, using the chairman control via the web browser. The next is a press conference kind of scenario where the conference units, will have a relatively basic functionality, and it is sufficient for each seat of the podium, to have a name sign. So the audience from the press, usually listens either to the original voice of the podium speaker, or alternately, they will be, receiving any translation if such a facility is available within the room, like an interpreted language. So if you see the real world scenario on this side, you can see that there is a small interpreter room, on the left side of the wall. So the audience here can listen to an interpreted language if it is available. So you have the MXC signs for the podiums. The speakers in the podium, and the MXC 620 unit is for the discussion. And the laptop, there will be an operator, specifically managing the meetings, the meeting modes and all. And the output can be reinforced to a PA system, and everything can work over a wireless router as well. So the MXC 620 can offer you a language channel selection, and if the interviewed people sitting at the podium requires a certain translation, so they can have that through the language selection. So moving on to the courtroom, a courtroom requires a very specific conferencing facility. So it may require customized conferencing systems. Either it can be a specialized material from which the conference unit is made, or a specific functionality due to the different roles and participants that are available, that that take part in a judge or a courtroom trial. So it can have like a judge bench, and the clerks or the assistant or the court reporter can be sitting here. So the witness box will be on the side, and the jury will be on the other side, and the defendant and the plaintiffs will be sitting on either sides of the audience, just before the audience. So again, the MXC 615 is being used here, connected to the DIS CCU. The judge, prosecutor, witness, etc. will be using the MXC 615, and okay. So in this particular line drawing, you can see that there is a requirement to record certain audio mixes, like the floor mix or the defendant or the witness, the judge, etc. Their audio needs to be separately recorded. So recording of these separate audio tracks, is definitely possible, because the DIS CCU can give you 8 analog outputs, and you can definitely convert that to Dante using our interface boxes. And if the recording software is actually running on the secretary laptop, you can use the Dante signal, in separate tracks, and definitely record it on the secretary laptop. So that's why we have interfaced the outputs of the DIS CCU with the NE4 in XLR unit here. So moving on to a small city council without electronic voting, there will be a specific seating for the chairman, and sometimes it will be having a podium area for a dedicated speaker or a current speaker. And there will be PA system to amplify the speech for the audience row, sitting in the back seat. So multiple members will be using the MXC 615. So the city council members will be having a separate chain, and you'll be having a separate chain for the mayor and the secretary. So it's always ideal to keep the chain separate in this scenario. And each of them will be having a browser-based control for managing the particular meeting. So moving on to a medium city council with a simple electronic voting kind of scenario, it would require advanced functionality where voting and visibility to an agenda is required for at least the chairman and the chairperson and the secretary. So MXC 630 and 640 are ideal candidates for this particular application. The MXC 630 for the council city members, and MXC 640 is for the mayor and the secretary, which gives you advanced control, or with the touch panel and agenda management, and all of that can be made possible through the web browser. And the output of the DIS CCU can be reinforced with additional PA system. So you can also have a medium-sized city council with software 6000 kind of deployment. So where you have the MXC 630 units for the council city members, and in case a large screen is actually visible within the room, you can have the visibility of the voting results and all, or the agenda of the participants on the large display. So you need to have a PC with the software 6000 CDA application on it, and you can have the MXC 640 for the mayor and the secretary and all of that. There will be an operator managing the entire meeting. You will be having the software 6000 installed on that PC with the database, the conference user application, and the conference administrator application all installed on the operator PC. So moving on to a historic or a large city council. So there can be building restrictions in regards to modifications of external furniture and all. So we'll only be able to use a conference unit, which is basically a small form factor, or it can be flush mounted or something like that. So a larger table, a larger conference unit may not be able to place on the table because there wouldn't be enough space, and the table may have to accommodate laptop. So definitely what you need to do is, you need to have the CUA interface that gives you the functionality of the discussion unit on the laptop itself. So all the members will be having the CUA functionality installed, and the member units will be having a simple discussion unit like the MXC MIU FS and the MXC MIU interface unit. So it will be fairly very straightforward and low form factor. The CUA app will give you the functionality of turning the microphone on and off or setting a request. And the mayor and the secretary will be having more advanced functionality with the administrator apps, CA apps. And there will be an operator will be having elevated functionality with the CAA and the CUA. So moving on to a convention hall, the convention hall may require interpretation facility, and you'll be having multiple interpreted languages. So basically, it can be transmitted in two ways. So either the participants will have an option to select channels from their conference units, via MXC devices, or the public can definitely listen to all languages via IR-based distribution system like the DIR 6000 IR distribution system, which will be explained here. So basically, the delegates are having MXC 620, the VIPs are having MXC 640 with the touch screen, and there are interpretation happening with the MXC IC. So there is a large screen display which is having the CDA app running on a PC, and the chairman and the operator is also available with elevated functionality. So the interpreted languages can be received on the devices directly by plugging in a headphone and selecting the channel. They can listen to the interpreted language, or the audience can use a IR-based solution, having a receiver and plugging in a headphone to that and selecting the channels. So in always the DIS CCU is being used, and the separate channels are being routed to all these delegates, VIPs, and the interpretation and the operators. So moving on to the convention hall with name signs. So you can have name signs that which is a traditional replacement for a cardboard-based name sign or a wood-based name sign, and you can change it on the fly or before a meeting. So it is an electronic version. So this MXC sign is actually inserted into the DCS LAN chains, and all participants, apart from the interpreters, are having the name signs. So in this particular example. So this concludes the webinar on the conferencing. So we would request you to register on Shure Miyasa at ShureTalentLMS.com, and the SAI portal is actually an education and network platform, which is dedicated for Shure customers, including system integrators, consultants, music industry retailers, and engineers and musicians. So if you are actually looking to advance your career or improve your knowledge or keep your team and staff up to date, please get certified by Shure Audio Institute. Shure offers a huge variety of online training for the sales team, technical team, and there are even content for general audio. So you can definitely select the preferred course which is available in your preferred language, and the certifications are self-paced. So it's very straightforward. So in case of any support or queries that you may have, feel free to reach out to support_miyasa@shure.com. So we are there to support you further. So thank you for your patience, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to ask in the Q&A box, and we'll answer them shortly.